What's up people, it's me Wasabi and I'm back with another review. Today we have a new Hall Effect gaming keyboard and this one's very nice. It's called the Hex80 and it's a collab between ATK and Qwertykeys. So Qwertykeys sent me a unit to try out, but as always with the content on my channel, these are my thoughts, personal opinions and experiences with the product. Now first let's have a look at what's inside the box. The keyboard comes with a carrying case, very handy to keep new switches or keycaps, standard switch and keycap puller. It also has a custom switch and keycap puller as well. This style makes swapping out switches so much easier. You got 4 extra switches as well, a USB-C cable that supports 8K connectivity, a user manual, quick start guide, and warranty materials. And for this keyboard, there is a notice that says you have to check the keyboard for any cosmetic defects before removing this layer of plastic. If you do get this keyboard and there are any defects, please let them know before removing this layer. And here you got the Hex80 keyboard. So that's pretty much all that's included inside the box. This is a pre-built option only keyboard and this is not the kind of keyboard that you buy and take apart and tweak their innards. At most you'll switch out just the keycaps and switches. Now Qwertykeys is a sub-brand under Owlab and they are very well known for making high quality keyboard with awesome designs. Also they made the Owlab Ti HE switches, which is a fantastic magnetic switch release this year. If you purchase this keyboard from Qwertykeys, they will handle both sales and after-sales support of this keyboard, and they are also directly responsible for the production as well, which I think many people will be quite happy to hear. Tentative release date is the 8th of August and there will be 5 colorways available. Here's what they look like. The MSRP is $249. There will also be a special price for the first week of launch, which will bring the price down to $209. So that's $40 off if you purchase within the first week. What I have is a white colorway because I think many people would be curious about the finish of this color. It's got an ultra fine powder coating, which is the same finish as the pink version, and for the other colors, those have an anodized finish. For white cases, I would be a bit more careful not to scratch it because marks would be very obvious, but this white colorway looks super cool. It's a combination of white with dark blue and dark red accents with a silver mirror finish detail on the bottom weight, and the base looks so nice. I mean, just look at that. I like how it looks simple, but yet it's not boring. And over here you have 3 dedicated buttons that are unique to this keyboard. The top left lets you cycle through lighting effects for the main keys, and for the one under it, it cycles through lighting effects for the cluster right here, and the button under the logo cycles through the 3 onboard profiles. The functions of these 3 buttons are fixed, and I think it would be very nice if a future update will allow you to program them to do other things. This is basically a full CNC aluminum case keyboard and it is quite heavy. I think I almost broke my wrist when trying to shoot the unboxing, but it sure does feel like a high quality keyboard. The white coating feels like other white coated keyboards that I've tried before, and on the bottom it's got a mirror polished PVD stainless steel weight that looks super clean. And just so you know, this case has no adjustable feet, so it's got a fixed 7-degree typing angle. Now these frosted keycaps are polycarbonate and the quality is surprisingly good. First, they are decently thick and they sound pretty great with the switches and sound dampening of this build. Secondly, it has a matte finish, which to me is a billion times nicer than full transparent glossy keycaps because those attract a lot of oil and fingerprints. And the texture of these keycaps are very nice to touch. In no way does this feel like a cheap set of keycaps. The style of the fonts are quite unique. It looks a lot like a braille writing system, and you also have subtext and symbols in red. Prints are very well done. It looks perfect, but I do find the font style quite difficult to read. Owlab Ti HE switches come pre-installed in all Hex80 keyboards. This is a big plus in my opinion because these are excellent quality switches from Owlab, who are the same people as Qwertykeys who worked on this keyboard. I use these switches a lot in my Wu-Ting ADHE build, mostly for productivity because they are very smooth and pleasant to type on. The Hex80 has a gasket mount design going on inside. The first layer is a silver carbon fiber plate, same for the pink colorway as well, but for the darker colors, those have a black carbon fiber plate instead. I love carbon fiber. I use a black carbon fiber plate in my Wu-Ting 60 HE. To me, it's more of a visual thing than for the sound experience, but this keyboard with the frosted keycaps, you can see the carbon fiber pattern, which looks really good. And you have all the other sound dampening layers that make up the typing experience and sound profile of this keyboard, which is actually really good, and I will talk more about that in a bit. It's not super flexy or too stiff. I mean, if you really push down on the keys, you can see the bounce from the gasket mounting system, but in actual practice, you won't feel it that much. So I would say the typing experience is moderately firm, which is something that I prefer for gaming. And these switches have very little wobble. When you brush your hand across the top of the keys, there is barely any noise and they are very smooth to type on. To me, these are light to press and feel relaxed with the up and down stroke, which in my review of these switches, I shared that I much prefer these for typing more than gaming. And I still feel the same way about it. It's a me thing, but I cannot say that it makes it a bad switch. I do enjoy using these switches for work though, because I do a lot of typing every day. How typing sounds on this keyboard? Well, get a clean, thick, dense sounding clack with barely any rattle or plasticky sounds from the switch. It really is an ideal clacky sound experience in my opinion. You know, magnetic switches are still considered a young category, but much improvement has been made over the last 2 years. And this sound profile to me is already very refined. Sound dampening also does a very good job at absorbing vibrations and thickens the sound as well. I use a carbon fiber plate on my main keyboard, which is a Qwertykeys HE. And well, carbon fiber plates are not the #1 pick if you want the best sound experience on a keyboard. That's because they are quite stiff and the material doesn't distribute impact energy as well as polycarbonate. So when I use this build, I can tell that the sound dampening layers are doing a pretty good job at removing that slappy sound that you get on carbon fiber plates. Now here's a quick sound test to give you a better idea of how this keyboard sounds. For the lighting, you got south-facing LEDs. These switches are not the brightest compared to other switches out there, but the frosted keycaps does help with that. Also at full brightness, it's bright but not blinding because the materials soften the light a lot. And another thing is that the switches give off a warm tone. So for any RGB color that you select, it's gonna be a little warmer than what you pick on screen. And this is the one thing about Owlab Ti HE switches that falls short to me. Not a deal breaker for most, but for people who enjoy RGB lighting, this is just something to keep in mind. Connectivity and performance, this is a wired only keyboard with an 8000Hz polling rate and 32K scan rate across the board. It also has Windows and Mac compatibility. To switch to Mac mode, just press the function key and C. And just to share, the web-based software also works for Mac OS for my fellow gamers who own a Mac at home. So the performance of this keyboard, honestly, it doesn't feel any faster than other Hex80 gaming keyboards that I've tried before, but it also does not feel any slower, which to me is already a very good thing. Because these days, actually for a while now, Hex80 keyboards are already so fast. The software interface is pretty straightforward and easy to use. I guess we can look at the profiles first. For profiles, how it works is you have a maximum of 3 onboard profiles which you can cycle through with the Hex80 button on the keyboard. And inactive profiles, you can basically create as many as you want and use those to replace the onboard profiles via the software. You can also export your keyboard profile to share with anyone else who also owns a Hex80 keyboard. There are a total of 4 layers, 2 for Windows and 2 for Mac. And remapping keys is very simple. It works by just dragging and dropping, and this has a good selection of keys to use. In the lighting page, there are quite a few lighting effects to choose from. Some effects you can change the color and some are fixed. You can adjust the speed and brightness as well. However, there is no layering of lighting effects here. You can customize the colors of individual keys though. For brightness, if you set it above 60%, it will notify you that it may affect the keyboard performance. So if you have a typing profile, I guess you can max it out if you want. And for gaming, it's really up to you. I just follow the recommended settings and keep mine under 60% brightness for gaming. You also have the option to customize the lighting around the logo and the dedicated buttons. In the performance settings page, there are presets. For now, it's just Aspas, Demon 1 and Spring, all very talented Valorant players, and it is a nice touch for gaming gaming keyboard to have something like this. But aside from that, you can create your own in the travel tab. Actuation point can be set from as low as 0.1 up to 3.3mm for the Owlab Ti HE switches, and you can do fine adjustments as low as 0.005mm. Rapid trigger sensitivity is from 0.01 to 3.3mm with fine adjustments of 0.01. And here in the advanced settings is where you can set the dead zone of each switch. Here you got switch profiles and switch calibration, and then you have a number of extra performance settings. Extreme mode is in the beta stage and it basically allows you to set even more sensitive settings. Not something that's super significant to me because it already performs great as it is, but the option is there if you want to try. For the advanced key settings page, each profile can have a maximum of 20 advanced keys at a time, and you got a variety of options: dynamic keystroke, mod tab, toggle key, rapid snappy, SOCD, and OKS. And you also got a macro settings page to record your macro functions as well. Overall, the experience of this software has been pretty good. A few things to take note though: there doesn't seem to be a way to sync profiles on this software. So let's say you just want to set up one profile with all your favorite shortcuts and custom keys. There doesn't seem to be an option to link the base layer or the function layer between profiles. The best way to work around this is to set up one custom profile and have that as your base. So that base profile has all the settings that you want on all profiles that you want to use, and apply that custom base profile that you created to all 3 device profiles. And from there, you can just tweak the actuation points and any other settings that you need for specific games that you play. You can set the most sensitive settings and it will feel faster for sure, but really your control and consistency would fly out the window. And those are 2 very important things for gaming, but I guess on a positive note, the option is there. So I mostly tested this one using the same settings that I use on other keyboards, using another set of Owlab Ti HE switches that I have to check if there's any difference in the speed or responsiveness. And in practice, I really cannot say that there is. But what's good to know is that the keyboard has been performing and working perfectly well. And in my opinion, that is the best praise anyone can give a Qwertykeys keyboard on the topic of performance today. I mean, realistically speaking, when you get this keyboard, if you get this keyboard and if you update the firmware, you will have to recalibrate the switches, which is a manual process. And well, you know, for an 80% layout, that takes some time. My experience with this keyboard is surprisingly good. It's been feeling great for daily use, and for gaming, I have a preference for something that's heavier and snappier with the rebound of the switches. But these switches for day-to-day typing, I enjoy very much. The dense, clacky sound profile of the switches in this build is rather addictive. And I doubt many people are gonna have a problem with it unless they specifically do not enjoy a clacky sound profile. You can swap out the switches for something else on the market, but these are to me one of the best magnetic switches for typing. And honestly, having Owlab Ti HE switches out of the box to me is already a huge plus in terms of value for Qwertykeys keyboards. Specifically for this colorway with these clear keycaps, it is not easy to see the letters on the keys, and the font really doesn't help at all. It is a bit of a challenge, but would I change these keycaps for something else? Probably not. It is a very nice aesthetic because when you have the RGBs off, the frosted look is very nice to see, and it lets you admire the silver carbon fiber plate. And when you have the RGBs on, you get quite a unique lighting experience from these keycaps. For me, my favorite thing about this keyboard is the dedicated buttons and the lighting around it. Everything else is very good. Now, final thoughts and what do I think of its value? It is a pricey keyboard, but it does feel pricey as well. I like Qwertykeys keyboards, and I know that there is no one keyboard for everyone. And even though I have a strong preference for smaller layouts, this Hex80, I cannot deny, is a very well done keyboard release in 2025. This is a brilliant 80% keyboard for people who are not looking to modify it any further than the keycaps and the switches. You know, people who just want a great sound experience, great quality build, and of course, ridiculously high performance on the spec sheet out of the box, and need nothing more than that. I like that this keyboard has its own character, and I say this from observing all the keyboard releases this year. You know, it's not trying to take elements from, I guess, a Qwertykeys 80 HE with a straight LED strip above the arrow keys. You will notice some keyboards are trying to use that element and, I don't know, make it smaller or rotate it, and it just comes off to me as something that's neither here nor there. The Hex80 though does something different, which I appreciate. You know, when I really think about it, Qwertykeys doing this collab with ATK is a logical move. And hear me out, it's because ATK already has experience with magnetic switch tech from past releases, and putting that experience into this keyboard is a million times better than Qwertykeys creating their own software and magnetic switch tech solutions from scratch. If that had happened, I honestly think there is a high possibility that this review would go south. So for this keyboard, ATK handled the tech and software bits, and Qwertykeys handled the build, the design, and production of this keyboard. It is a job well done. Good news, to my knowledge, they will be making a 60 and 65% layout version in time. I would love to see what those look like because I made a 60%, and you know, 60% layouts are a lot more challenging when it comes to creative freedom. So I want to see what they can come up with. But overall, the Hex80 feels like a wholesome keyboard. It is a keyboard that doesn't scream, "I am a gaming keyboard," or overdoes anything to compensate for the weaker points, you know what I mean? The Hex80 feels like a very safe keyboard that does well on pretty much everything. The only reason not to like this keyboard is that you either don't like the design or you want a keyboard that lets you change the case and modify the internals. So I would say for a pre-built out-of-the-box experience, I am very pleased with this keyboard. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful in any way, please leave a like and subscribe to support my channel. And I guess I'll see you in the next one.